I want to start with the basics. Maybe, Benjamin, if you can walk us through what the U.S. wants out of its relationship with Latin America and how has that evolved over the last few years?
Sure. Thank you so much for all of your service to the Wilson Center. It's been an incredible partnership, and we're delighted that we're deepening it and using this space and these partners to be able to address audiences in New York and elsewhere in these shared interests. So thank you. I think the United States, broadly speaking, sees a strategic necessity in having Latin America as a prosperous, stable, and democratic region, above all so that the United States can address numerous issues outside the Western Hemisphere. And I think there's a bipartisan consensus that has held for quite a while that should the United States not have to pay attention on a daily basis to the Americas, it opens up strategic resources, military resources, and the focus of the national security infrastructure to address global interests elsewhere, including in the Asia Pacific. Unfortunately, for the United States policymakers, none of those are the case today. So Latin America is now ending what is often referred to as a second lost decade, another period of very slow growth, ups and downs in many countries, but broadly speaking, economic stagnation with serious political consequences. The democracies in Latin America, which had been a great triumph of the second wave of democratization, have stumbled in recent years. There are now 3 consolidated dictatorships in Latin America and democratic recessions elsewhere in the region that are of concern to the United States. And then I think the consequences of both of those phenomena have challenged the United States in terms of migration. There's now unprecedented waves of migration, not only coming from historical sources such as Mexico and northern Central America, but from Haiti, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and elsewhere. So if the objective of the United States, broadly speaking, is to have a peaceful, quiet, prosperous, democratic region so that the United States can focus on other priorities, none of that is being achieved at the moment. And so I think it creates challenges that we've perhaps not faced in many years for those who manage U.S.-Latin American relations.
Very good. So then, Margaret, you're an expert in China-Latin America relationships. What is China looking for in terms of engaging with the region?
Well, I mean, frankly, it's my view, and I've been looking at this topic, at the Inter-American Dialogue and now at the Wilson Center for far over a decade, that China's interests in Latin America and indeed globally are very closely linked to China's own economic objectives at home. Back when China first engaged with the Latin American and Caribbean region in the mid-1990s, early 2000s, the primary objectives were, to expand export markets and then also to achieve food and energy security. And those 2 considerations, those 2 objectives continue to underscore, to motivate a lot of what China's attempting to do in the Latin American region and beyond. That said, China is now encountering a much more difficult economic situation than it was, just a number of years ago. It's no longer going to be able to rely on property sales to generate economic GDP growth, economic growth at the same rate that has in the past. And so we'll be looking, to really rely on innovation, on tech sector development, to boost productivity and to continue to grow at higher rates as a result of that. And we have to understand, that this is a major motivation for China, not only at home, but also in terms of shaping its outreach in the Latin American and Caribbean region and indeed across the globe.